Hi, welcome back. Last week we did a video on how to build a birdhouse man. Part of a two-part series video. So we're back this week to go slow it down a little bit and show you a little bit more of the plans, make it simplified so you can easy follow video step by step. We plan on later on having downloadable PDFs. Haven't got that far yet, but we're working on it. So what we're going to do today, do a real quick breakdown on it, simple so you can follow along, pause it, make your cuts, build your own. So we learned some stuff with our first video, obviously. One, the sound quality sucks. I am shooting on my Android phone. To recap last one. So we're going to start out real quick, make it easy. I ran by the local big box store, got a big piece of pine, just like I talked about before. This is a fence panel, or picket, some of them call it. This piece right here is going to represent our cuts, okay? So what we're going to do real quick is going to cut the front of the birdhouse and the back of the birdhouse. We're going to come at 7.5 inches. So we make our first two cuts 7.5 inches. 7.5 inches, marked it. Draw my saw down, made sure this side of the blade lines up on the next to the line, not on the line. If you cut it while it's on the line, it's going to end up being too short. You have to be next to the line. Otherwise, the width of this saw blade is going to be taken out of the piece that you're using. Both the same size. This will be front and back. Now we need to determine where the center is. This is stock is 5 3/4. So basically what you're going to do is just determine what's half of 5 3/4. Yes. Mark it in the middle. You determine what your pitch is, or what type of angle you want on it. You're going to measure it down, draw another line on that side and that side, and then just cut on those lines. They're right next to those lines. Alright, so that's pretty straightforward. This first piece of wood we took, first panel, cut off the very end of it to make sure we have a nice straight flat edge. No cracks in it. First cut was a 7.5 inch long. Second cut was a 7.5 inch long. So you have two pieces like that, front and back. Find the center of them. Measure down 2 inches, drew lines, and cut off. From there we're going to do the sides. The sides, we're going to need 2 of them at 4.5 inches. They are going to run this direction. I'm going to measure 4.5 inches. Alright, 4.5 inches. From here, line up. Never put your hand on the trigger until you absolutely know you have the line cut up where you want it. Obviously. Alright, so that's where I want it. Which is a bad idea because it's going to cut right through a knot, and then the knot's going to fall out. And then there's going to be a divot in there. So we're going to go to the other one. Again, I have a crack in the board. Alright, so there's my line. Here's the blade, we're on that side of the line. inches. Use this one as template. Go ahead and start to put the head together. Before we do that, the best time to actually drill the hole for the mouthpiece, or the bird entrance, if you will, is before you have together, take a extra piece of stock laying around, put it underneath there, use the paddle bit. I'm more of an eyeball it guy. You have it. Take a little, when we hit it with the sander, it'll clean it up just fine. That's what we're going to do with that now. Is you can actually assemble them. Alright. It's charged up. I start moving too fast here, I usually screw up. I don't want to go too fast here, but we'll keep moving. Move on the edge. Line it up. When I'm shooting into thin stock like this, instead of going this way, it can send the brad out the side much easier than it can if you go straight this way. If that makes sense to you. It does not feel good to have a brad go into your thumb or your hand. I always check the other side, make sure that it didn't splinter out that way and come through that way it did. If it did, I'd take my little cutters and I would cut those ends off. In case a bird does decide to live in here, it doesn't poke it. Designs, you tweak them, whatever size you want, make it your own. Don't worry about too much glue here or there, wrong cuts, because sandpaper and paint hides everything. It's your project, pretty hard to screw up. Or some of the best things that I've came up with, let's put it that way, is because I started out making one thing, somewhere screwed up along the line, and totally made something that was never intended to be. Alright, so there you have your basic box. There's your sides, front, back, the basic box, and all you have to do is find the pieces that you cut earlier. Now in a traditional birdhouse, if this is just a birdhouse all by itself, I like to leave this piece longer and it looks like a porch, right? They don't actually stand on it or sit on it, but they could. But it just makes it a cooler look. But for the head, I actually like to have a head flush. And now as I have to do is just leave this under nice and square. Area that I want cut off. Draw that line. Now I'm going to turn around the saw and just cut that off. Take off the splinters. Attach it. People ask, do I have a favorite type of wood glue? The answer is, not really. My favorite type is the one that's financially reasonable. I use a Gorilla wood glue. I've used Type On before. I get a really good deal on this at a couple different stores, so that's usually my go-to. I think you can pay around a little under $8 a box. Doing this way, I'm going to go ahead and square everything up. Shoot a staple in more than one side first. Brad, whatever you want to call it, and then work my way around. Check the inside, and then came through. Did splinter out around anywhere else. Now we have a nice bottom on there. Now would be a good time to go ahead and hit up the sander just a bit. Kind of smooths it off, take the splinters off. You can also work on your top. Depending on the profile you want, is how long you're going to make it. That's the only thing that really matters. You can also make it where there's an overhang on the front and one on the side. Just, again, personal preference. When I'm making these to look like a man or a woman, I tend to like making the top on the women longer, so it kind of represents longer hair. The guys, I'll make them a little shorter. That's just my preference. You can do whatever you want. It's your project, right? So I'm eyeballing it to what I think looks good. Didn't measure nothing. It's just a guesstimate. Sit. I like the way it looks. I like the way it looks, and I'll go for it. So I went ahead and attached the roof and what I call the neck. This is a piece of driftwood. Instead of using the 2x2 stock or cutting the 2x4.5 like I did in the last one, I've got a piece of driftwood, just about 2-3 inches depending on what you want to do or what type of look you're looking for. And then before I attach the top, I pre-drill a hole in the bottom and then put some glue on. I'm going to put glue on this part here. Shot a couple of staples in the back here just to hold it in place. In my pre-drill hole, took a 2.5 inch wood screw and then went ahead and screwed it into there. It's nice and sturdy. From our first piece of material we used, from our first fence panel that we used, we have about this much left. It's 13 inches. Find something to do with that later, but so out of one board we have the entire birdhouse roof bottom with a little bit left over. We're going to start on this one. So it's 6 foot 72 inches. We're going to cut off a couple inches off the top here. That's why later on in the instructions you're going to read on the video it says like 68 inches or something to start with. That's why I'm cutting off what they call the dog ears. I'm using the good stock. And then this one doesn't really have any cracks in it. If you do look, I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's a little cupping on the material. That's not going to hurt it for what we're using it for. So I'm going to go ahead and figure out the cuts on this one, get them measured up, get them up on the board. Alright, so our first two cuts for the sides, actually it's going to be front and back, it's 17 inches. Make sure you have flat edge on it. Come down 17 inches, make your mark. Make sure you've got a flat edge there in the back so you don't have some unlevel cuts. And down, eye it up. Now the other sides of it, because again we're going to use air holes on the sides of it, of the body, of the main torso, they're only going to be 15 and a half. So just a little bit shorter obviously for the other two. Alright, so we have our main body pieces here. Two fronts, front back, two sides. One very junky froggy side. We're going to drill our 3 little holes in the front of the body. For 3 more birdhouse entrances. At 17, we want to find the center of that, so we're going to go at 18 and a half, 4 1/4. Inches down because that's half of 8 and a half, it's 4 1/4. 4 1/4. I like the way that side looks. So we're going to go with that side. You use it when you're making your own. You can choose whatever you want. I'm going to center this so it has breathing airflows, vents basically from top and bottom on both sides. Assemble the box. I already have the blue slide. Nothing too exciting about this. It's the same as we did with the head. Clean that mess up one of these days. Where is that girl when I need her? Just kidding, but she really does. She does a good job cleaning. I have to keep her around. I just this small. Because that's what I'll know. Good stuff. There might be a bunch of. 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 There might be a bunch of professional woodworkers out there watching. I doubt it. But if you are, I'm sure you're going to tell me all the wrong ways of doing things. But remember, I just don't care. Seriously, not knocking the craft or anything. I'm self-taught. And although this is just a little birdhouse, strange birdhouse dude, it's a great project for anybody to learn on, especially beginners, enthusiasts. Simple enough. Now we're going to put it on the neck, bottom, start working on the leg, neck to head. Actually, I got to turn it this way so I can see the. Here we go. I could shoot a staple in here like this, and I may or may not get where I want it to be. I do take the run the risk of it coming out the front or the side and having a hole, ugly staple sticking through where I don't want. Got lucky on that one. And that one. That one. Let's go for the legs real quick. Sometimes it's easy to get distracted. As I was building these, I ended up with these. And the whole point of it is make it your own. The torso, straightforward. Head, torso, legs, put your arms. You can do it on driftwood. You can do it on pretty much anything you want. Like I said, these were a 2x4 that was cut in half. And somewhere around here. I just bought, when I was buying the other wood, I bought a 2x2 where you don't have to cut it in half. It makes it much easier. The feet on these are just a 2x4 with some bevel cuts on there. I didn't measure it. Again, I eyeballed it. That's what I came up with. These here, I did flatten out the feet on the bench sander. And that's what it is. Probably not going to use this guy on there. I will end up probably using legs like this just because it's going to match the wood better. But I really like these legs, so I'm going to go ahead and build another one of these out of some old wood. It's going to match more like this one here. And then just make it to fit the way I want. Other videos, I'm sure I'll end up making more different types as they come along and they get done. But the standard measurements on these legs, 20 inches. Look at the feet are offset. One's pointed out one way. You look on the back, one sticks out further than the other. And basically all that is just strictly for balance. Alright, level, take it around. Alright, let's go. Excellent, excellent. Go ahead and do this one now. No, be gentle because he's very ticklish, okay?